The interior upholstery, leather, less often velour, is easily soiled. On many cars it is designed in light colors. The plastic is cheap, but generally silent. The left A-pillar is constantly in the field of view, although it does not significantly block visibility. All-wheel drive is activated by a convenient regulator. 3 transmission modes mean that this is a version with a rigidly connected front axle. A serious drawback of the model is that the bodies rot intensively under the plastic linings. Frames are also subject to severe corrosion. Particular attention should be paid to the frame number of the rear right wheel. As a rule, the number is eaten away by rust and needs to be restored. The SUV is represented by one body type, a 5-door station wagon, which could be 5 or 7-seater. Although 5-seater versions are the most common on our market. The model bodies are partially galvanized and, as a rule, have no problems with corrosion resistance. Sorento comes in Korean and Ukrainian assembly. The latter were produced using the large knot method in Lutsk, Ilyachevsk, and Zaporizhzhia. Moreover, despite the appearance of an heir, the first-generation Sorento is still produced in Ukraine. As specialists from a company service station told us, there are not many shortcomings in domestically produced cars and they are eliminated during pre-sale preparation, for example, undercharging of the air conditioner and leaking cooling system pipes. Problems also arise with the axle shaft seals. In both types of gearboxes, after some time after the start of operation, they may lose their tightness. But after replacement, new oil seals last a very long time. On new cars, the dashboard may squeak, which, however, can be easily fixed under warranty. There are no complaints about the operation of the interior equipment. The most common Sorento unit is a 2.5-liter turbo diesel. There are much fewer cars with 2.4-liter gasoline engines, and the top versions of 3.3 and 3.5 liters are even rarer. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. Sorento is a full-fledged SUV with a frame body structure, dependent rear suspension and reduction gear. 3 people of average build can comfortably fit in the back. There is enough legroom. The angle of the backrests provides a semi-reclining position, and it is fixed, it cannot be changed. The best choice for an SUV is a diesel engine. It was this engine that became the most popular for the Sorento. Many praise this unit for its quiet operation, as well as for its locomotive traction, which allows it to move quite dynamically. The latter applies more to poster-styling versions, which received an additional 30 horses and 78 Nm of torque. The less popular 2.4-liter petrol engine is weak for a nearly 2-ton car. Although it is quite economical for such a large car, fuel consumption in the urban cycle is 12 to 13 liters. Moreover, you can use inexpensive A92 gasoline, and the owners assure that this does not negatively affect the performance, throttle response, and service life of the engine. If you skid frequently, the rear crankshaft oil seal may leak. There are cases of thermostat failure. According to motorists, major repairs had to be done only due to the fault of the owners, who allowed the engine to water hammer while conquering water obstacles. The CVVT variable valve timing system on the flagship 3.3L and 3.5L engines, and individual ignition coils generally last a long time. There are no complaints about the turbine and injection pump of turbo diesel engines. The 2.5 diesel engine has a problem: cracks in the block head, where the thin walls are made. In Ukraine, finding a normally used head is unrealistic. Mostly they sell the entire engine for $1,500 to $1,800. Anyone who has encountered this problem is advised to order an assembled head from Poland, where they are restored. The timing belt of diesel engines does not require maintenance. It uses a metal chain that can withstand the entire service life of the engine. Gasoline engines have a timing belt, which is recommended to be changed along with the rollers every 50,000 kilometers. In general, Sorento gearboxes are quite reliable. It is worth noting only the problems with the third gear and the mechanics it can knock out while driving. The switching mechanism is to blame. However, this problem can be easily fixed at a service center, and it is typical for fresh cars of recent years of production. These same specimens are also characterized by leakage of axle shaft seals, which we have already mentioned. But the hydraulic clutch drive is durable. Transmission maintenance comes down to regular replacement of lubricant, in mechanics every 90,000 kilometers, in automatic and transfer case 45,000 kilometers, in axle gearboxes every 30,000 kilometers. If this is not followed, problems may arise. More often, with a rear gearbox, intensive wear of the main pair, which is accompanied by increased noise while driving. Only the most expensive versions, which are rare in Ukraine, were equipped with automatically connected, using an electronically controlled clutch, all-wheel drive of the TOD, torque-on-demand, system and a self-locking differential in the rear axle. Most Sorentos used on our roads are equipped with a rigidly connected front axle. Since such a transmission does not have a center differential, it is undesirable to drive an all-wheel drive on hard roads. In this case, there is an increased load on the transmission, significantly reducing its service life, and the tires wear out faster. With such operation, as a rule, the front gearbox is the first to fail, the differential is destroyed. A new unit costs about 15,000 UAH. The Razdaka is much stronger, especially since it is designed for driving on dirt roads and slippery surfaces at speeds of up to 80 km per hour, for X4 high mode. In most used versions, the chain in the transfer case is stretched, so when all-wheel drive is engaged, a cracking sound is heard, the chain slips. A new chain, oil and replacement labor cost about $500. Increases cross-country ability and the presence of a downshift, for X4 low mode. According to Sorento owners, it has high cross-country ability, not inferior to the more famous Mitsubishi Pajero Sport and Nissan Pathfinder SUVs. In the versions after restyling, the reflectors of the rear fog lights became larger, and a different stamping appeared in the bumper. A serviceable Sorento suspension is a bit harsh. It conveys in detail all the unevenness of the road surface, but at the same time it is energy intensive. It swallows large potholes quite confidently, and has large strokes, which causes noticeable body sway. With these settings, active driving is not much fun. The front suspension is independent, double wishbone. The rear suspension is dependent, with a continuous axle. Anti-roll bars are used at the front and rear. According to service workers, the chassis is very reliable. You will have to change the bushings and struts of the front stabilizer more often after 50,000 kilometers. The same rear parts last up to 70,000 kilometers. As for the ball joints and silent blocks of the front arms, they will last 100 to 150,000 kilometers, and the rear suspension is considered generally indestructible. Shock absorbers also last about 100,000 kilometers. What makes chassis repairs cheaper is that all consumables are replaced separately. There are no problems with the steering, and even the steering ends can withstand 70 to 80,000 kilometers. The brakes are also reliable. In a stowed state, the Sorento trunk is one of the largest, 965 liters versus 500 liters for the Pajero Sport and 925 liters for the Rexton, and with the seats folded, average 1,750 liters versus 1,720 liters and 2,020 liters, respectively. The separately opening rear window allows you to throw light luggage into the trunk or transport long items that do not fit inside the car by letting them out. Kia Sorento is a car that successfully combines important advantages for consumers: price, quality, and level of equipment. Compared to more famous full-size SUVs, the Korean costs much less, while providing a good level of equipment, acceptable build quality, and excellent off-road qualities. Most owners of this model say that it is worth the money spent on it. But the main thing is that domestic experience in operating the Sorento has confirmed the reliability of this car. However, when purchasing, it is important not to run into a copy whose owner did not care much about it and, in order to avoid dealing with repairs, decided to shift the financial burden of the problems to the new owner. One of the disadvantages of the domestic assembly is the loss of tightness of the axle shaft seals. After replacement, they serve without problems. After our salty winter roads, the chrome coating on external decorative parts may become unusable. A characteristic sore of the Sorento is the failure of the retractable antenna. It often jams and often freezes in winter. Sometimes its fastening becomes loose and knocks.